Hey everyone, I've been working on another potential time save for 120. This time it's SL100 plus reds with moneybag duplication. Of course this is not a new concept, but I'm hoping that with my setup it can be somewhat useful, even if it's just as a YOLO strat. I'm just going to show you what it looks like first and I'll explain the steps later. Note that a good SL100 plus reds with the current route is somewhere around the 140, but runners can easily lose 10 seconds or more in the current route with bad RNG. It's going to look a little hard, but that's because I'm showing the hardest and fastest setup first. There are easier setups. Let's have a look.
Here we go! Here we go!
Basically, the idea is to pre-duplicate the money bag near the ice pulley with a setup, then do Koopa shell cloning later. It might look extremely dank, but it's actually a little easier than it looks, but there are also some hidden caveats. Before I go into a full explanation, let me just note that although there is a lot of pausing, for only 2 of them you have to find a frame. The rest are all one-framers, which you can do by double tapping start. Also, there are slower variations which are easier and have way less pausing. Second off, if you've ever tried money bag duplication with the shell, you may think that section is super inconsistent, but with the pre-dupe money bags it actually becomes a lot more solid. So let's get into the actual full explanation. First, you need to get to the sign next to the ice pulley. Ignore the C left span because that's irrelevant. You need to hug the sign and then read it. This fully sets your angle and position. You also want to be in close Mario cam, either before or after reading the sign, and your previous Lakitu cam has to be the close Lakitu cam. The camera will quickly spin to Mario's facing direction. Once the camera has stopped moving, the setup starts. Note that this is pretty lenient, the camera doesn't even need to be completely stopped yet before you can start. The first thing you do is press start and R at the same time to pause and go to Lakitu cam. Now hold down and unpause for 1 frame. Be careful not to exit the course. Now hold right and unpause. Now you pause at x equals 1852. From here, we start turning fully right by holding down first and ending in the down left notch or slightly further left if you have a very downward notch. I'll discuss down left notch quality for the strats that require a good one later, but for this one you can go towards left if it's really bad. Now we pause at x equals 1599. From here we start a series of 1 frame unpauses with alternating left-right joystick, starting with left. Also, on the very first repause, you have to press A as well. I found that for me the easiest way to do a 1 frame unpause is to just quickly mash the start button twice. Okay, so hold left, get ready for the double start mash and A press, and go. Now right, double mash, left, double mash, right, double mash, etc. How long you want to do this depends on how many money bags you want to pre-dupe. Every left press gives you an additional money bag, up to a maximum of 6 for this pattern. I'll talk about how many money bags you want to pre-dupe later, but you want at least 3 to 4, with additional ones not benefiting you as much. Okay, so you want to end on the left press and if possible hold a little bit down afterwards so you exit the money bag radius sooner, but this is not strictly necessary. Okay, so for completion's sake I'll also show you a version of this setup where you only make 4 money bags. It's exactly the same, but you just end on the 3rd left press instead. Again, it's beneficial to start holding down leftish after the final left has gone through just to exit the money bag radius sooner. This is actually true for all setups, and if you make mistakes, just get away from the money bag. Note that my full run example was actually a 5 left press version, so in between the 4 and 6 left press versions. Now I mentioned the quality of the down left notch for the frames before the quick pause sequences, but for this hard setup it's not actually necessary to have a good down left notch, since you're fully turning all the way up until the quick pause sequence. However, for the sake of clarity, I have a table of all the down left values that will work for this. The first number in every row is the raw stick Y values, and all the values after that on each row are the raw stick X values that will work for this. Note that the joystick values left of the diagonal are left out to save space since they all work anyway. This is more to show how the table works for the next setups. Now let's get into some alternatives for this setup. Before I talk about the easy setup, there's a small variation to the hard setup that allows you to eliminate the first pause, if you have a good down left notch. And by good, I mean one of the following raw XY combinations. The difference is that you hold down left 1 frame longer before you start the quick pause sequence. You will still do a 1 frame A press on the very first unpause, but now your sequence is DLDLDUDU instead of LRLRLRL. Again, if you only want 4 money bags, you only need DLDL, which is only 3 1 frame unpauses after finding your starting frame. Finally, there is a version that does not have a quick pause sequence at all. You simply hold the down left until you exit the money bag radius, and then you go back to Mario Cam and hug and read the sign again. Now you simply repeat the whole setup another 1 or 2 times. This will give you up to 8 money bags, but it is of course quite a bit slower. Compared to the hard setup, the double easy setup is about 5 seconds slower, and the triple easy setup is about 13 seconds slower, depending on the pausing of course. One note about the down left is that you technically only have to hold it up until this frame, and it is technically slightly better and faster to start turning towards the sign a bit earlier, because it makes you leave the money bag range a little earlier, which gives them less chance to shift around. However, holding down left all the way is definitely not bad, and you will still leave their range before there is a significant chance of them moving. Here you can see all the down left notches that will work for this easy setup, where you can keep holding it all the way until you leave the money bag radius. Okay, so now that I've shown you the setup variations, let's talk about RNG, money bag behavior, and how many money bags you want to pre-dupe. Unfortunately, the pre-duping is somewhat RNG dependent. There's just no way around this due to how the money bags are coded. Whenever you activate a money bag, they have a 1 in 6 chance of immediately walking around instead of waiting and jumping, changing their position slightly. Also, for each frame they are active, they have a 1 in 50 chance of randomly shifting their home by up to 200 units, which also affects the duping. Here you can see a diagram of the money bag activation and deactivation radii. When Mario enters the pink region, the money bag wakes up, and when he exits the blue region, he goes back to sleep. This is assuming the money bag's home doesn't move and the money bag doesn't start moving either. The duping happens by entering the blue range on the exact frame the money bag starts to go to sleep. Normally the awake money bag object disappears and a sleeping money bag is spawned. But by reactivating the money bag on the same frame, an asleep money bag is spawned, but the original awake money bag does not disappear. Now let's look at some money bag probabilities for the different setups. I will show you the odds of getting certain amounts of money bags and a certain amount of money bags in the original position. This is because some of the money bags can end up in shifted positions, but having a bunch in the same spot is most useful for the Koopa duping. So the second column is going to be the most important for judging the quality of each setup. Okay, so here we see the stats for the hard setup, which is either DLDL or LRLRL. At most, we're going to get 4 money bags. There's a 93% chance of actually ending up with 4 money bags, but only a 45% chance of getting 4 money bags, which are all in the original position. Now let's look at the stats for the maximum pause sequence, so DLDLDUDU or LRLRLRL. Here we have a maximum of 6 money bags, with about the same chance of getting at least 4 in the original position. And there's a chance of getting 5 or 6. Here we see the stats for the easy strat with 2 sign reads, so the double easy strat. We have a 27% chance of 4 money bags with the original position, so quite a bit worse than for the hard setup. If we go to the triple easy strat, so reading the sign 3 times, the stats get a lot better, and we have about a 48% chance of having 4 or more money bags in the original position, with a good chance of more or bonus money bags in other positions. But of course, it's a bit slower. Alright, let's talk about the rest of the run, which is a lot simpler. First, we simply make our way to the Koopa Shell box. I found this cool way to do it using a crouch, slide, recover, and bouncing off the second spin drift. However, there's a bunch of ways to do it using either the first or the second spin drift. Some things to remember is that if you hold neutral after bouncing off a spin drift, you keep your speed, and if you move the stick, you start quickly losing speed. Also, if you hold A, you spin faster and descend more slowly, which can be useful if you have low speed. Also, there are some exposed ceilings in this area you want to avoid. Now you get the shell and collect the first 4 reds like always. Around the end, you want to switch to close Mario Cam for the Koopa duping. Collect the 5th red and approach the pile of money bags you made. Now we want to do the Koopa dupe, which is done by getting in position and simply holding right to spin in circles with a mostly fixed radius. You also want to be close to max speed while you do this so your circles are consistent. You want to be on the right of the money bags because that's the direction they'll start moving in when they wake up, so you automatically kill them. If you circle too close, you'll start killing them instead of duping, and if you're too far away, you won't dupe them or dupe them very slowly. It will take some getting used to, but it's not actually that precise. You can just err on the side of caution by going a bit far, and if you're too far away, you can adjust while circling to get a little bit closer. There's obviously some variation in how quickly you can gather the coins based on how many money bags you had in your original pile, and some RNG, but it will be a lot faster and more consistent than Koopa duping from a single money bag. It's also a lot less likely that the duping will completely run out, which can happen easily with a single money bag. One thing to watch out for is that if you're duping with a lot of original money bags, so like starting with a pile of 6, 7, or 8, you can actually crash the game. You can tell this is going to happen when you get a lot of lag and you start getting visual glitches. If you don't adjust your trajectory, there's a chance you'll dupe so many you crash the game. With less than 6 original money bags, this is pretty rare. Once you have about 80 coins, you can start breaking away and collecting random coins to get up to 90 plus coins. You probably want to avoid looking at the money bags to reduce lag a little bit more. Now you can just collect the last 3 reds and finish the star. There's a lot of ways to finish up. You can get some of the coins from the spin drifts like in the normal SL100 if you need some extra. There's also a really hard double star spawn using the spin drift near the final red, but this only saves maybe like 2 seconds, even if you do get it, because you have to wait for one of the yellow coins from the final spin drift to get near the final red. So yeah, that's basically it. This example gets about a 109 with the hard setup and some pretty optimized movement and pretty good RNG. As mentioned, you can theoretically get another 2 seconds or so from a double star spawn, and also you can get to the sign at the start a little bit faster with a C-up slide, but that doesn't really save as much as you would think. And that's probably going to end up just being for single star anyway. Alright, well that's basically it. I hope this is going to be somewhat useful. I realize that the setup is pretty hard and the whole thing is still pretty RNG dependent. I'm going to wait for community feedback so I know what to look for in a potentially better setup.